We're really happy that you came, and we really appreciate you, gracing us with your presence before you go to Santa Cruz. And you're activating all the way up the coastline, aren't you?
Well, absolutely. I've been on both coastlines. I've been to the Occupy New York, Occupy Boston, Occupy Portland, Maine, Occupy DC, and then yesterday Occupy San Francisco and Oakland, and now Occupy Monterey. Yay!
Yes, Monterey needs it. Monterey's, it's time here.
So, and we were thinking about having you speak like right here. Is that okay? This is the farmers market in Monterey. We've got a ton of, like 5,000 people go down this street every day.
Yeah.
So we have more people coming. We're going to be filming you. I was going to start by
Would you like to introduce?
Declaration from the Wall Street protest.
Okay.
To start off. Do you have a timepiece right now?
Yeah.
You do?
Let's do this in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
You want to go somewhere a little bit quieter?
I think right here is good, don't you think?
Okay. Just speak up very loudly.
Okay.
So
can
we have you?
Assembly.
Do you mind if I have this in the background more?
This is Wells Fargo right here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, as we gather today in solidarity to express a feeling of mass injustice, we must not lose sight of what brought us together. We write so that all people who feel wronged by the corporate force of the world can know that we are your allies. As one people, united, we acknowledge the reality that the future of the human race requires the cooperation of its members, that our system must protect our rights, and upon corruption of that system, it is up to the individuals to protect their own rights and those of their neighbors. That a democratic government derives its just power from the people, but corporations do not seek consent to extract wealth from the people and the earth, and that no true democracy is attainable when the process is determined by economic power. We come to you at a time when corporations, which place profit over people, self-interest over justice, and oppression over equality, run our governments. We have peaceably assembled here, as is our right, to let these facts be known. They have taken our houses through an illegal foreclosure process despite not having original mortgage. They have taken bailouts from taxpayers with impunity and continue to give executives exorbitant bonuses. They have perpetuated inequality and discrimination in the workplace based on age, color of one's skin, sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. They have poisoned the food supply through negligence and undermined the farming system through monopolization. They have profited off the torture, confinement, and cruel treatment of countless non-human animals and actively hide these practices. They have continuously sought to strip employees of the right to negotiate for better pay and safer working conditions. They have held students hostage with tens of thousands of dollars of debt on education, which is itself a human right. They have consistently outsourced labor and used that outsourcing as leverage to cut workers' health care and pay. They have influenced the courts to achieve the same rights as people with none of the culpability or responsibility. They spent millions of dollars on legal teams that look for ways to get them out of contracts regarding health insurance. We're almost done. They have sold their privacy as a commodity. They have used the military and police force to prevent freedom of the press. They have deliberately declined to recall faulty products, endangering lives in pursuit of profit. They determine economic policy, despite the catastrophic failures of policy to produce and continue to produce. They have donated large sums of money to politicians supposed to be regulating them. They continue to block alternate forms of energy to keep us dependent on oil. They continue to block generic forms of medicine that could save people's lives in order to protect investments that have already turned a substantial profit. They have purposely covered up oil spills, accidents, faulty bookkeeping, and inactive ingredients in pursuit of profit. They purposely keep people misinformed and fearful through the control of the media. They accepted private contracts to murder prisoners even when presented with serious doubts about their guilt. They have perpetuated colonialism at home and abroad. They have participated in the torture and murder of innocent civilians overseas. They continue to create weapons of mass destruction in order to receive government contracts. These grievances are not all-inclusive. To the people of the world, we, the Monterey General Assembly occupying Monterey here in Liberty Plaza in front of Wells Fargo, urge you to assert your power, exercise your right to peacefully assemble, occupy public space, create a process to address the problems we face, and generate solutions successful to everyone.
Thank you.
I'm really pleased. Oh, no problem. I'm pleased to have here our esteemed Ann Wright, retired colonel from the Army. She is, you may know of her from her stance when she resigned from the State Department in opposition to the Iraq War. She's been decorated with numerous human rights awards. She has become a leader on the global peace movement stage as a citizen activist. And she's agreed to speak a couple of words to us today in support of our movement. She's recently been speaking in Occupy Wall Street, DC, Portland, San Francisco. She's off to Santa Cruz afterwards, but she took time for a busy lecture circuit to speak to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks. Well, it's a Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here in Monterey to join with you all who are representative of people all over our country who are saying to our government, politicians, and institutions that we want something better. We want something better than the greed and graft and corruption that we've been seeing. We want institutions like big banks to treat people right, not throw them out of their houses, since they get bailed out, the banks are bailed out, that citizens ought to have an opportunity not to be languishing with homes that they should be given some help in being able to keep. And that we want our money not spent for endless wars, that we want money brought back to the United States so that we can have kids that are educated properly, that we can have cities that run properly, that the human needs come before all of this war fighting that we seem to be involved in now for the last 10 years, with the United States military going all over the world, invading and occupying at will. So it's with great pleasure that I'm here with you all in Monterey, California, as you exercise your duties and responsibilities of being good citizens and really challenging our government on what it's doing. So as we meet with people all over the country, the complaints are pretty common. I mean, they're the same, that we really are demanding that our government treat the citizens with respect, and that we not give special deals to corporations. So with this institution of Wells Fargo, telling how many people have been kicked out of their homes because of the foreclosure policies that they have, and the exorbitant rates that they may be charging for, credit cards for one thing, and debit cards. And it's good to be right here where people going in there can challenge and perhaps even take their money out of that bank and put it into a good local bank, a local credit union that has policies that are much more useful to the citizens that they serve. So keep going, go Monterey. We wish you the very best here, and in this day with all of the people coming through with the farmers market. It's a good day to stand here as concerned citizens to let and encourage others to come and join with you. So thank you all.
Seeing as Monterey is such a center for military infrastructure, do you think it's really good for us to be focusing on staging protests outside of the military facilities here?
Sure.
Would you advise that course?
Yeah.
I mean, the military-industrial complex itself is something that needs to be addressed as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a retired U.S. military officer, I totally support protesting at military installations. It is good for us to remind people that are in the military of what the costs are. They know the internal costs and external costs of being in wars, but the impact on the rest of the community as they are told to go to war, and as the most expensive part of our government that now is between 55 and 60% of our budget goes to national security related institutions and programs. I think it's good to remind them that many of them will not be decision makers now, but if they stay in the military later, they'll be decision makers. And it's always good to remind them too that they are citizens that are being impacted not only by the military itself, but by the lack of services that we have in our civilian part of the community because of the exorbitant amount that's going in toward the military. And
can I ask you what you have any comment on what the motivations are behind all this gross military expenditure and this imperialism? I mean, is it for profit? Is it for business?
Well, certainly.
Or is it for national security?
Oh, well, no. National security is always the moniker that's put on it. But
yes,
there's a
fighting phantoms.
Huge amount of profit that's inherent in all of these and growing bigger all the time. The increase in the profit of the military-industrial complex over the last 10 years is unbelievable. So always question the amount of money that our government is spending and which corporations are getting it. And
And could I just ask you one?
key to it.
Could I just ask you? Could you visualize a society that operates without needing to profit in any way? Could you visualize that kind of government, that kind of economic situation happening, a resource-based economy?
In the United States, I think it would be. I can certainly visualize a huge reduction in the amount of profits that are made, and in fact, I think that's what we ought to be really pushing hard for.
That's a systemic weakness of the system, yeah.
That a profit has always been a part of like the system.
Yeah.
But these giant profits are the part of it that I think we all are so outraged about. That when we have CEOs that are making, hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, and companies that are making billions and billions, and yet are not providing health care for their employees that are working them, to the bone.
But
These are the things that we're really concerned about.
Yeah, these people aren't necessarily wrong themselves, but they are kind of a magnification of the system. Would you say that they're like a?
Well, I would say that
they're the symptoms, not the causes, in a sense.
Well, that we need to be pushing hard on CEOs and corporations to reduce the amount of profits that they make. And I think that's a doable thing. It may require buying one share of their stock to be able to go to the shareholders meeting, but when you get such obscenities that we're having now, such huge amounts of profits and huge amounts of bonuses that are going to the top leadership of all these companies, it's gross. It's they're being big fat pigs about all of this, and I think we need to stop that. Yeah.
And do you have any forecasts for this movement? Do you see it as growing exponentially as well? Do you think it's going to get bigger and bigger?
The movement here, the Occupy movement, is certainly growing, and more communities are having them, and they start out small, and then all of a sudden people are coming to the General Assemblies and enjoying the prospect of being with people who are concerned like they are of what's going on, and to have a democratic process where everybody gets a chance to air their grievances, and a process that's really quite interesting of all the hand signals and all of the stuff that goes along with it. That is it's a real grassroots movement rather than the hierarchical things that we're so used to, where we have leaders of some groups and then we, the followers, kind of find out what's going on. But this is totally different.
It's a holarchy, not a hierarchy. Holarchy.
Yeah.
Holographic.
It's a wonderful
consensus.
One. So good luck to you all in Monterey. I wish you the very best, and as we occupy all of the things that we are concerned about. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Where are you speaking next?
Down in Santa Cruz tonight at the WILF.
Where?
The Women's International League for Peace and Justice at the Quaker Friends House in Santa Cruz tonight at 7.